What if everything you've been told about death is incomplete? Ancient civilizations preserved knowledge that modern science is finally rediscovering. The evidence about consciousness after death will completely transform how you view life's greatest mystery. Scientists are more and more documenting something extraordinary. Patients clinically dead for minutes return with identical stories that match ancient wisdom from cultures worldwide. The evidence suggests consciousness survives physical death in ways we never imagined. What I'm about to reveal will shatter everything you think you know about death. While billions of people go about their daily lives completely unprepared for the one certainty we all share, ancient civilizations possess knowledge that modern science is only now beginning to understand. You've been lied to. Not intentionally, perhaps, but the sanitized version of death you've been fed your entire life barely scratches the surface of what actually occurs when consciousness separates from the physical body. Today we're diving into documented accounts, scientific research, and ancient wisdom that paints a completely different picture of humanity's final transition. This isn't about religion or belief systems. Is about evidence. Hard data from near-death researchers, testimonies from cardiac surgeons, and knowledge preserved for millennia by cultures that understood death as a journey, not an ending. By the end of this investigation, you'll never view mortality the same way again. And here's the thing. Once you understand what's really happening, death becomes less of an enemy and more of a teacher. But I need to warn you, what you're about to learn challenges the comfortable illusions most people cling to about the afterlife. Are you prepared to handle the truth about humanity's greatest mystery? Here's what nobody wants to admit. Modern Western civilization has created the most death-phobic culture in human history. We've sanitized, medicalized, and essentially hidden death from daily life to such an extent that most people reach the end completely unprepared for what's actually happening to them. Think about it. Your great-grandmother likely witnessed multiple deaths, helped prepare bodies, and understood death as a natural transition. You probably haven't even seen a dead body except in movies. We've traded wisdom for comfort, and the cost is enormous. Ancient Egyptians spent their entire lives preparing for death, creating detailed maps of the afterlife journey. Tibetan monasteries developed precise techniques for consciousness transfer at the moment of death. Indigenous cultures worldwide maintained oral traditions describing the soul's journey after leaving the physical form. These weren't primitive superstitions. They were sophisticated systems based on thousands of years of direct experience. Meanwhile, modern medicine treats death as medical failure rather than natural transition. Doctors receive virtually no training in the psychological or spiritual aspects of dying. Families are encouraged to move on quickly, rather than honor the profound transformation occurring. We've created a culture of death denial that leaves people terrified of the very experience that could be their greatest awakening. The result? Millions of people approach death with nothing but fear and confusion, missing out on what could be the most significant experience of their existence. This isn't just tragic, it's completely unnecessary. Recent medical research is revealing phenomena that would have been dismissed as impossible just decades ago. Cardiac surgeons are documenting cases where patients describe detailed conversations and events that occurred while they were clinically dead. No heartbeat, no brain activity, no possible way their physical senses could have functioned. Dr. Sam Parnia's aware studies have recorded over 4,000 cardiac arrest cases, where patients reported conscious experiences during clinical death. These aren't hallucinations or oxygen-deprived fantasies. Patients accurately describe medical procedures, conversations between doctors, and even events in other rooms, while their bodies showed zero signs of consciousness. The implications are staggering. If consciousness can exist independently of brain function, everything we think we know about death requires complete reconsideration. We're not dealing with the end of awareness. We're witnessing its liberation from physical constraints. Brain imaging studies show that in the moments before death, there's actually increased neural activity rather than the expected shutdown. The dying brain exhibits patterns associated with heightened awareness, memory processing, and what can only be described as expanded consciousness. It's as if the approaching transition triggers a profound awakening rather than a gradual fade to black. Even more remarkable are the documented cases of shared death experiences, where healthy individuals present at someone's death report, identical visions and sensations. If death were simply biological shutdown, how could multiple people share the same transcendent experience? This scientific evidence aligns perfectly with accounts from ancient wisdom traditions that described death as consciousness, expanding beyond physical limitations rather than ending entirely. What actually happens when you die? Ancient texts provide remarkably consistent descriptions that modern research is now validating. The process unfolds in distinct stages, each offering unique opportunities and challenges for the transitioning consciousness. The first stage occurs at the moment of physical death. Multiple traditions describe a brilliant light appearing as consciousness begins separating from the body. This isn't metaphorical. It's reported by near-death experiencers worldwide with stunning consistency. Tibetan teachings call this the clear light of awareness, describing it as the purest essence of consciousness itself. During this initial phase, many people report feeling more alive and aware than ever before. Physical pain disappears, replaced by profound peace and clarity. The challenge lies in recognizing this light as your own essential nature, rather than something external to fear or worship. The second stage involves what various cultures call the review process. Your entire life unfolds with perfect clarity, but not as judgment from an external authority. Instead, you experience the consequences of every action, feeling both the joy you brought others and the pain you caused. This isn't punishment, it's education, helping consciousness understand the interconnected nature of all experience. The third stage varies depending on your level of awareness and preparation. Some souls move toward reunion with universal consciousness. Others find themselves drawn toward new incarnations based on unresolved attachments and desires. A few become temporarily disoriented, clinging to familiar earthly patterns until they're ready for the next phase of their journey. Understanding these stages transforms death from terrifying unknown into navigable territory. With proper preparation, what could be overwhelming becomes an opportunity for profound growth and liberation. The accounts are too numerous and consistent to dismiss. Millions of people worldwide have returned from clinical death with remarkably similar stories that challenge everything mainstream culture teaches about mortality. Dr. Raymond Moody's research documented the classic near-death experience pattern: separation from the physical body, movement through a tunnel toward brilliant light, encounters with deceased relatives or spiritual beings, and a life review process. What makes these accounts extraordinary isn't their mystical content, it's their consistency across cultures, age groups, and belief systems. A 5-year-old child and an elderly atheist professor return from cardiac arrest, with nearly identical descriptions of the afterlife landscape. A Hindu farmer in India and a Christian businessman in New York report the same sequence of experiences during their temporary deaths. These similarities suggest we're dealing with objective reality rather than culturally conditioned hallucinations. Even more compelling are the veridical near-death experiences, cases where people accurately describe events they could not have possibly witnessed while unconscious. Patients report floating above their bodies, watching resuscitation efforts, and describing conversations in other rooms with perfect accuracy. When these accounts are verified by medical staff, the implications become impossible to ignore. Perhaps most significant are the transformations these experiences produce. People return from near-death experiences with dramatically reduced death anxiety, increased compassion, and profound shifts in life priorities. They consistently report that death is not the end, but rather a transition to expanded awareness and continued existence. These aren't random hallucinations or wishful thinking. They're glimpses into the actual process of consciousness transitioning beyond physical form, providing invaluable insights into humanity's ultimate destination. The most remarkable aspect of traditional death preparation isn't the elaborate rituals. It's the recognition that how you live directly influences how you die. Ancient wisdom traditions understood that death is not a separate event, but the culmination of an entire lifetime of consciousness development. Meditation practices found across cultures serve as death preparation by familiarizing the mind with states of expanded awareness. When consciousness naturally expands at death, Those who have cultivated these states through practice navigate the transition with confidence rather than fear. The Tibetan practice of dream yoga trains practitioners to maintain awareness while the ordinary mind is inactive. Perfect preparation for maintaining consciousness during the death process. Mexican indigenous traditions use plant medicines to create temporary death experiences, familiarizing individuals with the terrain they'll eventually navigate permanently. Even simple daily practices can serve as death preparation. Moments of quiet reflection, gratitude practices, and acts of compassion all cultivate the mental qualities that ease the transition process. The key is approaching life with awareness that each moment is part of an ongoing journey rather than an isolated experience. Perhaps most importantly, these traditions emphasize that death preparation isn't morbid preoccupation, it's the ultimate life enhancement. Understanding the temporary nature of physical existence creates profound appreciation for each moment, while reducing attachment to transient pleasures and pains. When you truly grasp that consciousness continues beyond physical death, every interaction becomes an opportunity to create positive energy that persists beyond the grave. This isn't just spiritual philosophy, it's practical wisdom for living with purpose and dying with peace. We've journeyed through scientific evidence, ancient wisdom, and documented experiences that all point to the same revolutionary conclusion. Death is not the end of consciousness, but its liberation into expanded awareness. The implications of this truth extend far beyond comfort in the face of mortality. They transform how we approach every aspect of existence. If consciousness persists beyond physical death, then every thought, every action, every moment of compassion or cruelty creates lasting consequences. The quality of your awareness right now is preparation for the greatest adventure you'll ever undertake. This isn't about following specific religious dogma. It's about cultivating the mental clarity and emotional balance that will serve you in any post-death scenario. The ancient texts weren't mythology. They were instruction manuals for navigating the most significant transition of your existence. Modern science is finally catching up to wisdom that indigenous cultures preserved for millennia. The veil between worlds is thinner than we ever imagined, and death is simply stepping from one room into another. But here's what matters most. You don't have to wait until death to begin experiencing expanded consciousness. The same awareness that persists beyond physical death is available to you right now. Through meditation, contemplation, and conscious living, you can begin familiarizing yourself with the territory you'll eventually explore permanently. Your consciousness is far more vast and resilient than you've been taught to believe. Death isn't your enemy. It's your graduation ceremony from the Earth School into realms of existence that make your current experience seem like a shadow of reality. If this investigation has opened your mind to new possibilities, smash that like button and subscribe for more explorations into humanity's greatest mysteries. Share your own thoughts or experiences in the comments. This community is built on seeking truth together, no matter how challenging that truth might be. Remember, understanding death isn't about preparing to leave life behind. It's about learning to live with the full awareness of who you really are. The journey continues, and you're more prepared for it than you know.